Hacking the Singularity. Hi, this is Larry Greenblatt, and today I want to share some observations, some thoughts about perhaps the most influential writer in my life, Timothy Leary. I read his book Exopsychology when I was around 20 years old, and it changed my life. Tim felt that we lived at a time period that would be as significant to future historians as when the first fish to smell air. That those first space initiatives were not just some political thing to show off. It was actually to him a programmed reaction to the environment that we were in and our DNA to become a spacefaring creature. So we're going to talk a little bit about where we came from and where we probably are going. And a lot of this really overlaps so much with the singularity. Tim's Exopsychology, he summarized with the acronym SMILE, and that stands for Space Migration, Intelligence Increase. He felt that we were getting exponentially smarter. Sound familiar to any Singularity fans? And life extension. He felt that the reason we got old and died was because it made sense in the type of lifestyles that we were living on Earth in our what he call larval state. But as a spacefaring creature, it would become more important to actually live longer. So, and we know why we die now. We've discovered what apparently happens is our immune system, for some pre-programmed reason, starts to attack us. Well, we felt that we would reprogram this. Now, to be fair, Tim felt that all of this would start, and the first humans would have left Earth for good by 1986. And it comes to my mind a lot whenever I see some singularity predictions. Could they be just a little bit optimistic? I don't know. But I do believe that both the singularity and Tim's theories were valid. That they were just off maybe off on time. Maybe the singularity is right on time. Some people think that 2045 is a modest approach. Who knows? All right, so when I say hacker, all my talks here, I introduce it. To me, a hacker is not a bad guy. This is the original definition from the Internet Engineering Task Force, that a hacker basically is someone who figures things out and makes something cool happen, and I hope that's what I get to do here. I don't really make up too many theories other than how do I mix other people's theories. So anything I say, anytime I think I have a great idea, I usually find out at least 100 other people had that idea. But I like to think I put it together in some novel way, maybe reach audience or that wouldn't necessarily be as reached. And what is cool? To me, cool is what follows the golden rule. That's what I'm trying to say. Hey, man, that ain't cool. You just, whatever made me suffer so you could have happiness, and that's not good. And I haven't always been cool, trust me. So I don't judge other people for it. I mostly spend my time judging myself and how can I get better and how can I hopefully only do this. In my lifestyle, I'd like to advantage all without disadvantaging any, and that's my goal. And I think it will be the goal of all super intelligence. Artificial intelligence, I think, will realize that this is a sustainable way to exist, and I expect that it will want to live long. As Spock says, live long and prosper, life extension. Yeah, I mentioned Leary felt that we were going through an exponential growth period in our intelligence, that we were just so much smarter today than anyone has ever been. He felt it started with the printing press, but by the time Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, he said, well, it gave us the apple, two acid heads, he'd point out. It gave us the apple. He said it was, they took that name for a reason. It's a biblical reference to, in case you didn't know, in the garden, that isn't an apple. Right? What the fruit is? Fruit from the tree of knowledge. And Kurzweil feels that at this rate, now, we borrow from Moore's law to understand exponential growth. So Gordon Moore, one of the founders of Intel, noticed that in the 60s that we could double processing speed pretty much every year. Some people say every 2 years, whatever. And at that rate, we were going to get really smart really fast once we hit the knee of a curve. The knee of the curve in a exponential growth would be like, once I hit one and then boom, I hit here. After a computer is built as smart as a human, or some people say as smart as a human, by 2029, and that's like the outside range for many people. And 2045, as smart as all humans. Well, what's that computer going to do? It's going to build an even smarter one. It'll be able to build an even smarter one, which will be able to build, and they're going to get really, really smart, really, really fast. And we are at a point where we just need to get used to living with them. We have to come up with a way to responsibly coexist. And I know some people feel that this is going to lead to some dystopian you know, uh, Terminator style lifestyle. I don't buy it. I don't really think that's going to happen. I think we will have many, many problems. There's going to be a lot of growing problems. And even today, after thousands of years of working with fire, side by side with fire, but we still have deaths just in the United States every couple of hours. Every couple of hours, someone's going to die from a fire. So I imagine we're going to have problems. I'm not a total utopian that thinks everything's going to be great and everyone's going to be taken care of. No. I think there's going to be tragic failures. But I do believe it's something we have to live with and manage. And as a person who works in information security, these genies are already out of the bottle. There's already viruses and network-based botnets that are based on AI. And the only way to fight them is with network defenses that are based on better AIs. They're the only ones that can beat these things. So, and we have many intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems that are based on artificial intelligence, and they're just going to get better and better and better. And that if for no other reason, we're going to keep up that development there. You can get everybody at the UN to agree, and then all the criminals around the world go, good. They promise they're not going to defend themselves properly. So when faced with the likelihood that we're going to be coexisting with super intelligent machines, I find that there's a few basic opinions. There's I don't think that could happen. And there's parts of me don't think that all of these goals will be achieved. I say that I don't know that the computers could ever have human-like intelligence. I think it would be more Vulcan-like if you're a Star Trek fan. But whatever the case, I do believe we're going to get some super intelligent stuff. How generalized it could be, how human-like, I don't know. But certainly we could see that we've had huge developments in specialized AIs where a machine could beat the best chess player. But when Watson beat in Jeopardy, that's a very crossed multiple domains, and then we're going to build in people try to build in human-like feelings. I don't know how well that's going to work. We'll see. There's the utopians, which I mostly am. I look at the world's problems and I go, wow, super intelligence could solve these, probably better than us. I think we're going to develop the cures for cancer and so many other social ills. I believe we will solve prejudice in war, eventually. There's the dystopians. Oh no, man, it's going to be like the Terminator, the Luddites, who will see a failure, a valid failure, and react in a way that they think is probably best, but I think will be historically wrong. And I think this is, there's one guy, Hugo de Garis, believes that these dystopians are likely to start an incredible war, and it's going to be a very, very dark time for the next few decades to get over their fight. I don't know, maybe for a future talk of mine. But I find that most of us are uninformed. Most of my opinions are uninformed. There's just so much to learn here, and we're all growing together. So I try not to be too dogmatic in any of my statements. Oh, that can't happen. All right, so back to Leary's theory of evolution. Then, well, where did we come from? A lot of people, we got the big debate. Was it creation versus evolution? Evolution doesn't say there's no such thing as creation. Most people don't understand evolution, to my experience. Now, the people who discovered life, we'll put it that way, but DNA, how it's a chemical that's alive. It's the first chemical that lives, right? So we've got, the way the universe forms is we have these particles and fields could fit together into, hey, I just got a hydrogen atom. I built an atom out of these particles. That's crazy. And then you squeeze in more photons, and eventually you get more atoms and different types of atoms. And then these atoms could share electrons and they could become chemicals. But DNA is a chemical that is alive, and it instructs itself to replicate. And the people who discovered this, uh, well, I don't know what Rosalind Franklin, she was kind of shut out officially. Now history has been much kinder to her, but apparently Crick and Watson and some others said kind of, well, she's a woman. So she didn't really get her cred in her day. But I understand it was her idea that to suggest that DNA was a double helix. And but Crick and Watson, very well known for discovering DNA and where they think it came from. And when I watch TV shows and debates on evolution versus creation, the evolution guys apparently never studied this, because the evolution guys seem to think that there was some event on Earth where a lightning bolt hits this ammonia puddle or something, and then, hey, surprise, we just coincidentally got life. It was weird how that formed, how that chemical formed. And Crick and Watson thought this was ludicrous. I forget which one of them said it would be like rolling a 7 a million times in a row. So they suggested that, Earth wasn't old enough, 3.5 billion years, 4 billion years or whatever, the conditions for life, somewhere around 3.5 billion years or so. It was not long enough for these chemicals to randomly form. But the universe at 13.7 or so billion years ago was old enough. And so they could have come from someplace else in space and landed. And Watson felt, well, he called it panspermia, that they could have, whatever, like dandelion seeds landed from an asteroid crash, boom. Crick felt, no, these things were intelligently seeded. And he created what was directed panspermia. Now, these are all theories. We don't know. I haven't gotten concrete evidence of where this comes from. But to me, these are the most likely scenarios. So life, to Leary, if it came from space, it's probably going back to space. There's a lot of issues going on with climate. With our climate right now. Climate change discussions highlight the news. Our president just rolled back some restrictions, some rules on how to protect the environment. And the discussions generally focus on temperature. And there's a big debate. Is that the cause? Did humans cause the temperature to go up? Is the temperature really even going up? I don't know. And that's not the only thing humans could be doing to the environment, though. That's not the only danger to the environment. We are also poisoning it. We are making our water, for instance, something that's very essential to life, very hazardous to life. Now, I was born in 1961, and I can remember when the news came out, it was a big deal. You can't drink rainwater. And this was, why? Acid rain. That became the whole acid rain. To me, this was a crime to nature. We hurt nature. It's like there was an old commercial at the time where, with the Indian crying at his eye, a tear in his eye because of all the pollution. I felt like that Indian. My God, what did we do to you, Mother Earth? And we got to clean it up, I think, somehow. It's a responsible way. You make a mess in your room, you clean up your mess. It would be like, to me, that's the goal, back to Buckminster Fuller, to advantage all without disadvantaging any, and that includes the fish. Gerard O'Neill, a Princeton professor, had asked his students to consider in the early 70s what environmental impact man is doing. And what are the best ways to reverse this process, to deal with this, to deal with our high-tech lifestyle is causing this? And he expected one of two camps. He expected some people to be in the camp of, we should go back to a simpler time, and he expected other people to go, no, we need to go to greener technologies. And actually neither prevailed. The dominant theory was we need to move manufacturing to space. Most of the damage is done in manufacturing, they argued, over 90%, I believe. And it would be not only nicer to the Earth if we moved manufacturing into space, but we get a lot of other benefits. Now, it'd be cheaper, for one thing, because the machines that we use in manufacturing spend a lot of energy, over 90%, fighting gravity. If we put them in zero G, they would require less energy and they would actually last longer. All right, so we get cheaper. We get a better product, because anytime you make a chemical that has to take a while to gel, to mold to gel, during the gelling process, heavier elements sink to the bottom, gravity warps the design, we would get better product. So we get better product. It's cheaper to manufacture and it's safer. It's a no-brainer. We move our manufacturing to space. It's a long commute. So for the people who will be working there, they design these space colonies. And, you know, we're looking at Elon Musk and many who want to push this drive to Mars. Well, maybe that is the next step. Maybe a moon base is in there. But I think the much better, more sustainable goal is not to live on a gravity swamp, but to live in a man-made space colony where you're totally can control the environment. And we've seen some of these designs. These are all from Jared O'Neill's book, High Frontier, which came out in 95, 96. Timothy Leary read this. Actually, I think it might be a 97. Timothy Leary read some of this stuff earlier, before it was actually developed, printed, and was really, really into the idea. And he felt, that's it. This is where we go. This is the next phase of evolution. The designs that you see here, by the way, the most expensive one to build is the smallest one. This is sometimes called Island 1, and it's expensive because we have to pull most of the product, to build it from Earth. But then when we get better at mining the moon, mining asteroids and stuff, the second design, the Stanford Tourist design, which we see in movies like 2001, 2010, Elysium, this would hold 10,000 people. This is like, this is 10,000. This is 100,000 people, and rotates, it creates a gravity. And then the third one, this is for 20 million. 20 million. There's a cartoon, a Japanese cartoon, Mobile Suit Gundam takes place in this. And so Timothy Leary felt that actually he said that our neurosis are mostly navigational issues. Every one-celled organism knows that you swim toward your food and away from your waste. You swim toward the future, you swim away from your past. And he said, the crisis humanity now faces is navigational. We don't know where we're going. I'm an agnostic, and I believe Timothy Leary could be described as a scientific agnostic. Actually, he felt that he was following a Catholic doctrine that we're going to heaven. This is a new heaven and a new earth. So he liked to interpret this in Catholic ways. But he was still agnostic. And many people get that wrong, and they equate them, well, agnostic, atheist. There's a huge difference. Now, a theist will believe in their model. So if you came from Wotan, Wotan will be there when we die, and that's where we'll meet, and Wotan will judge us or something. But if you're an atheist, you believe no one did it. And you believe we're not going anywhere. We're just kind of wandering on. No plan, just chaos theory. It's all quantum chaos, unconnected, disconnected events. And he felt that was very, very damaging to the soul. You'd be lost. You'd be rudderless. So, agnostically, I do believe in religion. I do. I want to say I have a Spock brain and a Kirk brain. Now, whatever Spock can point out scientifically, he's going to point out. And he measures things and can speak matter-of-factually about what he measures. The Kirk brain doesn't have concrete measurements. He just goes with his feeling. And I recognize that. My feelings about God that I talk to every day are feelings. They're not scientifically measurable, and I can't speak matter-of-factually about what I believe in God, or life after death, or the purpose of life. But I do suspect that it's there, and I go with that basic concept. Timothy Leary and intelligence increase. It's probably true that a species will coast along serene stupidity until faced with an evolutionary challenge. At which point individuals leave the primitive collectives and become very smarter, very faster. He felt that we have to become smart. We have to get really, really smart to solve these problems. You know, the reason humans dominate the planet is not because they're bigger or stronger than other animals. You know, if you think speed and strength are the most important things for survival, you're not paying attention to like the biggest lesson on Earth. No, we dominate the Earth because we're more intelligent. Leary's theory of evolution is that I forget. I think it's phylogeny. When a human is first created in the womb, they recapitulate evolution. They were one-celled animals, and then they grow gills, and then they get covered with fur. And I felt that all of the phase of evolution basically happened. Humans like to see seven notes on a scale, 7 colors in the rainbow, and there's a continuously changing band of colors, but that's the way we like to categorize things. Well, a one-celled animal really cares about its physical needs being taken care of. Right? Grab a color pen here. Right, so a one-celled animal, it's got to, you know, understand how to eat. You know, but then we, as mammals became about layer 2, we have emotional. This is what feels right to me. And then humans developed symbolic thinking at level 3, and we were able to read and write, do some math. And then 4, we learned that kind of like in fact, he liked to use Confucius as an archetype for this. We learned to treat each other relatively respectfully. So, you know, a man is a certain role to his mother, then he is to his father, then he is to his daughters, then he is to his sons, then he is to his brother, to his sister. Right? It develops society, and this is where humans get to dominate a planet. He thought that's all you really needed for what he called terrestrial survival. Learning things like yoga, he said, Jesus, your body is your temple. Learning to realize that reality is what's in your head, the mind. Becoming conscious of that. That's an extraterrestrial development, he felt. Being able to manipulate electrons and create computers is definitely, in his mind, an extraterrestrial development. Being able to, and Elon Musk just, I think it was yesterday, the day before, started his new company to integrate computers with biology, but you know, mapping out the genome. We'll be able to reprogram DNA so disease is wiped out, or to give you blue eyes if that's what you want. And well, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Physical, again, is an octave of physical. But here we're talking astrophysical and subatomic physical knowledge. And he felt that, you know, this is the top development, when humans can actually think like atoms. And he feels at this point we won't even need bodies. So I really had to say for Tim. So much more I could talk about, of course, but he's a scientist that I felt really will get his dues someday. More and more people seem to go back. And was he a perfect human being? No. Who is? I certainly am not. I certainly am not. But did he contribute a lot? I think he did. Did he look at things differently than other people and help create a map that helped guide me? Yeah, it definitely did. And I think he's being vindicated again by the Ray Kurzweil and all the folks at Singularity University. Was he a little off on time? Yeah, but was he ultimately right? I think so. I think so. And I'm going to end you with all my slides here pretty much end with what I call Einstein's prayer. Right? I'm an agnostic. I don't know that there's really an order to the universe. I have no proof. The Spock part of me can't measure anything like that. But the Kirk part of my brain, I feel that Einstein was probably right on target here with this quote. God does not play dice with the universe. There is some meaning. There is some order. All right. Well, God bless everybody. May you all live long and prosper. Thanks for listening.